Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, August the 10th, 2021 edition of Let It Be Known. This morning, we are expected to be joined by Cloe Luv, an essayist, a musician, and the niece of the godfather of soul, James Brown. Apparently, we're having some issues connecting with Chloe this morning, so we hope to bring her to you at some point. But first, of course, the news headlines. A United Nations panel on the climate released a scathing report yesterday about a manufactured atmospheric crisis that has jeopardized the world's future. It is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land, stated the authors of the report, which is titled AR6 Synthesis Report Climate Change. Widespread and rapid changes in the atmosphere, ocean, cryosphere, and biosphere have occurred, concluded the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the UN's body for assessing the science related to climate change. 234 researchers from 66 countries analyzed more than 14,000 scientific reports about climate change for this particular report. Officials say that it will present these findings during climate talks later this year. The report from the United Nations noted that warming temperatures continue to drive more extreme events in every part of the world, which is in danger of experiencing more heat waves, longer warm seasons, and shorter cold seasons. Also, they say if temperatures increase an average of 2 degrees, the researchers said that it will threaten human health and agricultural systems. The study concluded that the average global temperatures had increased as much as 1.3 degrees Celsius, and some recent hot extremes over the past decade would have been extremely unlikely to occur without human influence on the climate system. So regardless of any preventative measures, the researchers found that global surface temperatures will continue to increase until 2050. Without a drastic reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, the world will exceed 1.5 degrees of warming in the next 20 years. So the threshold is 2 degrees. And they're saying that 1.5 degrees is what we will see in the next 2 decades. Immediate, rapid, and large-scale reductions must occur, they said. Human-induced climate change is already affecting many weather and climate extremes in every region across the globe. As we see that constantly with the different disasters we've had, with the extreme weather situations that we have as well. So it's something to watch, something that you will read about at blackpressusa.com. Also in the news this morning, a new coronavirus mutation known as the Lambda variant that is thought to have increased resistance to vaccines has appeared in the United States. Also known as C37, the Lambda variant was first discovered in Peru in November of 2020. Peru has been one of the countries hit hardest by the pandemic, with 595 COVID-19 deaths per 100,000 people, the highest in the world. Peru has relied heavily on the Chinese vaccine known as Sinopharm, which is 79% effective at preventing hospitalizations. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are 94% effective against hospitalizations here in the United States. The Lambda variant, has since spread to 8 countries in South America and 41 countries around the world, and scientists are extremely concerned. In fact, tomorrow there's going to be a special session that the Black Press has been invited to. You'll have White House aide Cameron Bell and others, Dr. Cameron Bell, I should say, and others speaking to the importance of this particular variant as it pertains to the Black and Brown community. Right now, there are currently more than 1,300 Lambda sequences in the U.S. as of August the 4th of this year. And the variant has been identified in 44 states, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So again, the emphasis on wearing a mask, emphasis on getting vaccinated. Many are still refusing to get vaccinated. We understand that there are some hesitancy, but lives are clearly at stake, and we are also on the cusp of perhaps another major lockdown, and nobody wants that. And so, again, the science suggests that the vaccines are safe. In fact, the Pfizer vaccine is on the verge of getting full approval by the FDA and the CDC, which means that it is fully safe, and people can their fears can be eased by getting this vaccine. Some of the comments have been that, well, it's not fully approved; it's just experimental. Dr. Fauci, Dr. Hilton, and others have said it's not an experimental vaccine. It really works, and that's proven because 99.9% of those vaccinated, if they've gotten the virus again or gotten close to the virus again, someone with the virus, they have not been really ill. They certainly have not required any hospitalization. So it's really a situation where the scientists, those who are in the know, are really encouraging all to get vaccinated if they can. Also in the news this morning, a Black couple from Pennsylvania who adopted twin boys who are white have been accused of kidnapping their own kids, including by a woman who threatened to call the cops when their sons had a tantrum at a playground. Jennifer McDuffie Moore, who is 43 years old, and her husband, Harry Moore, 37, took in 3-year-olds Braden and Trevor as foster children after they were separated at birth from their biological mother, who reportedly suffered from drug addiction. 2 years later, the Collingdale couple officially adopted the twins, who joined the couple's biological children, Joy and Courtney, and their adopted kids, Keenan and Sanchez. Jennifer, 43, co-owns a child care program, and Harry is a mechanic, and they describe the racist episodes that they have experienced as the Black parents of white children. In an interview, Jennifer and Harry say, a month ago, we were playing at the playground, and the twins didn't want to go home. A lady had been watching us playing, and when one of the twins had a tantrum, she told me she was going to call the police. She says, I scooped the kids up, and she thought I was stealing them. One of the twins said, no, that's my mom. I don't want to justify it because people should mind their own business, she said. So as Dr. Chavis would say, adopting while Black is now a thing now. You know, we've had it all, as he said, Starbucks while Black, walking while Black, driving while Black. And we had the case yesterday. We brought you on Let It Be Known about the realtor, the Black realtor who was handcuffed by police while showing a home. And now we have this situation where you have a couple, an African-American couple, who adopted 2 white children, rescued them really from who knows what type of life. Their mom reportedly had a drug addiction and could not care for these children. And this couple, who has adopted kids in the past, adopted them as their own, and now they are being attacked racially. Again, we were supposed to have our special guest, Cloe Luv, this morning, but we're still having some issues. We have not been able to connect. So bear with us, and perhaps we will have to bring her at a later date. And Dr. Chavis is supposed to join us as well, but our president and CEO is MIA this morning, but that's okay. He deserves a break, doesn't he? And so as we, again, segue back for a moment, someone says just born Black. That's Angela Connolly says just born Black is now something, right? And it is true. Angela says we know what the virus, going back to the virus, Angela, I wanted to get back to that anyway. We know what the virus can do, but our youth are still gathering, partying, clubbing, and others are holding church inside with no mask. You know, there is, Angela, a measure of responsibility that each of us have. And certainly as we head back toward schools reopening for the fall, it's a concern. It's particularly for those who are under 12 years old. Remember, the vaccine only covers those from 12 years old and older. And so the younger ones, those who are under 12, are not vaccinated. And so it makes for a very, very serious situation going back. And so we all have to be responsible. And so how about this? If you're not vaccinated, then perhaps don't mingle, right? Because it is your choice whether or not you want to get vaccinated or not. So, hey, it's really not just about us, is it? And Cheryl Smith, yes, she says, Cheryl Smith is our great publisher at the Texas Metro News and iMessenger Media in Texas. She says, we know Dr. Chambers is somewhere taking care of business. I would imagine that he is always on the go, our president and CEO. And, you know, sticking with the virus at this moment, folks, for the first time since February, the U.S. is averaging more than 100,000 new cases each day. Again, as Angela Conley has brought out here, I'm looking at the screen. You know, you're right on. This situation is getting to a point where we're going to revisit where we were last year at this time, or even earlier when the pandemic was first declared. It's so important, as we show Angela's statement again, so important that we all be careful, because without taking care of this, we can't really move forward. There's many things that I'm sure many of you, like us, would like to accomplish, not stuck in the confines of either your home or just some office somewhere by yourself. It's good to mingle, it's good to be out, but it's also good to be safe. And so we continue to be vigilant about that. Today, also in the news, the Senate is planning to vote on President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill at 11 a.m. Eastern time. This bill has a whole lot of great things in it, and some people say, well, not so great things. But the infrastructure bill initially was more than $2 trillion, but the Biden administration has cut it down substantially to try and get bipartisan support, which has been extremely tough to come by in this Congress, the 117th Congress, since the election of President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. So we anxiously await what the Senate will do. Among other things, that legislation will actually make the roads safer, make truck drivers safer, and other things that affect our travel. So that infrastructure bill is really important. It also treats some of the symptoms that we are talking about with climate change and the environment. So it's one to watch. 11 o'clock this morning, Eastern time, the Senate will vote on the president's plan. And in the meantime, the Democrats have also unveiled a $3.5 trillion budget blueprint that they said would expand the social safety net. Among the things that they would like to do is more expansion of Medicaid and Medicare, particularly for seniors. They also want to be able to provide the services that many need, including the situation we're facing now, many are facing, I should say now, with the eviction moratorium. We know that they got an extension, but we know that that's also a situation where the courts will weigh in ultimately again on the eviction moratorium. The Supreme Court earlier this year has struck down the moratorium, saying that it just wasn't constitutional. But they also said that it was something that legislation should fix, not an executive order by the president. So it's one to watch. Another bill is a $3.5 trillion budget blueprint, really is what it is, where the Democrats are making suggestions on what needs fixing in the United States. So we watch that too. And as we head toward 9/11, the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the Biden administration said it would disclose long classified documents that some September 11th victims' families believe could link the Saudi government to the attacks. As you recall, everyone recalls, after 9/11, then President George W. Bush went after the regime of Saddam Hussein in Iraq, actually blaming them for the attacks. Of course, Osama bin Laden was ultimately the culprit, and ultimately during the Obama administration, captured and killed by the United States military. Get another message from Angela Connolly. She says, I care about people being homeless, but these young people are buying cars and getting pretty instead of paying rent. We had Eugenia Foxworth on last week, and she mentioned something just like that, Angela. And obviously, we don't paint everyone with the same brush, but what she did say was that those who could afford to pay should pay. And I'd imagine, Angela, that's exactly your point as well. Those who could afford to pay should pay. And many are taking advantage of the situation. That's probably true. We don't have the exact statistics on that. Bobby Henry down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Bobby says that what's going on with our vice president, people are wondering if she has been silenced. Well, Kamala Harris, she has been working the border situation, among other things. Of late, we know that there's still issues there that was created by the last administration, and she's been tasked with trying to fix something that is thoroughly broken. It's also important, folks, on September 16, 2021, the National Newspaper Publishers Association will have its annual legislative conference. That is in line with the CBCF's leadership conference. It's our leadership conference. That's to say, the CBCF has the legislative conference. It's usually in line at the same time. And if you could bring that back up, just so folks can see that. But the theme is Saluting Excellence and Innovative Leadership in Black America. It is September 16, 2021. And we looking forward to that. You will be able to see it right here on the social media channels of the Black Press of America. Now, the very busy Cheryl Smith, you're right. He's out there taking care of business, though. Now he's back. Our president and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavous. Good morning, Dr. Chavous.
Thank you very much, Stacey, and thank you for giving us the headlines and for continuing with the program this morning. On behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the NNPA, we represent 230 African-American-owned newspapers across the country. Karen Carter Richards, our distinguished chair. Glad to weigh in. I'm glad you're talking about the NNPA's Leadership Awards reception. That'll be on September the 16th, virtually. Because of the resurgence of the virus, the Delta variant of the coronavirus, our events this year are still going to remain virtual. And our next event is in September, next month. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and Dr. Chavous, we have been discussing the Lambda variant of the coronavirus. Tomorrow, the Black Press has been invited to an event with Dr. Cameron Bell and others to discuss this. It's really raging now, Dr. Chavous. 100,000 new cases a day in the United States. This is really serious.
And disproportionately, of the 100,000 new cases a day, thousands and thousands of them are African Americans of all ages. In Louisiana and Florida and in Georgia now, we have children as early as 7 weeks old, 10 weeks old, 2 years old, 5 years old, under 10 years old that have the virus. And so we have to take this very, very seriously. Last year, Stacey, we declared a state of emergency. That state of emergency is still intact. We can't go for the okadoke, as Malcolm used to say, and believe that this virus is not serious and somehow that we can miraculously live through it without the adequate protections. We need to keep those masks on, keep washing our hands. And if you're eligible and available to get vaccinated, you need to get vaccinated. You need to protect yourself and your family from this deadly virus.
Yeah, and Dr. Chavous, one of the things I really wanted you to weigh in on is this United Nations panel, which released this unbelievable report. I say unbelievable. I'm sure it's not unbelievable to you, on climate change and the crisis. They declared a code red. People can read about this on Black Press USA and many of our member publications. But they said, Dr. Chavous, in part, that it is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land. And they said that if the temperatures rise another 2 degrees between now and 2050, we are in extreme trouble.
Well, we're already in extreme trouble. Look, the fires are burning in the West. There's drought other places, and other places are flooding. This is because of climate change, which is again, white supremacy on the environment. I think that it's also an aspect of environmental racism. So I think there's people who deny science are the same people who justify pseudo justification for the transatlantic slave trade. So these things have gone on for a long time. They're still going on. But I think we have to amplify our voices. And that's why we need the Black press. Certainly, we cannot afford to be witnesses to the destruction of the global climate, as well as being witnesses to the destruction of our communities, because we're disproportionately exposed to environmental hazards. We're disproportionately exposed to climate hazards. But all these hazards are man-made. They're a result of overproduction in some areas and highway production without care to the injury of the environment. Take this out, Tracy. If you have societies that routinely harm the environment, harm the climate, harm the atmosphere, do you think those same people will also harm people? Do you think those same people will also have racial profiling, racial tracking that disproportionately puts us in harm? All of us heard about the brother who's, you mentioned it yesterday. It was a Black realtor showing a Black family a home, and the cops came and arrested the realtor and the people at the home because the cops felt that they shouldn't have been in that neighborhood. So this is what we are facing. And sometimes we see these as single issues. They're not single issues. Climate hazards are directly related to environmental hazards, are directly related to health hazards, are directly related to the social determinants of racism.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about that again this morning, Dr. Chavis, where a African-American couple who adopted two white kids, what they went through, someone threatened to call the cops on them. So you're right. It's just not one issue. It's you can look at.
But no one is right. No one is born a racist. That's part of the social condition. And the reason why they're having this debate now about critical race theory, I think we in the Black press, we need to flip this script. It's not about critical race theory. It is about uncritical white supremacy ideology. That's what needs to be criticized. That's what needs to be exposed. That's what needs to be dismantled. Uncritical white supremacy ideology.
Yeah, and James Wright from the Washington Informer, he writes in Dr. Chavis, which is, we all know, he says, Dr. Chavis, you sounded the call on environmental racism. We know that decades ago you did, and here we are today, on the verge of, as the UN says, we are in a code red for human life.
I would say we're in a code red, black, and green. That's our code. That's a call to liberation. Code red, black, and green. Yeah. Code liberation, and we gotta stay focused. It's like doing slavery when the slave master's house caught on fire. Some people went and got buckets to throw water on the fire. Others went and got some fuel to make sure that the fire burned it down. So I think we have to make sure that we're on the right side of history. And I think that these governors that are denying opportunity for people to wear masks, these governors need to be locked up. These governors need to be incarcerated. That is premeditated murder if you deny a child an opportunity to protect themselves from the virus. And so, I think that we have to change our nomenclature. We have to change our definitions. We have to change how we respond much more proactively and get ourselves out of a situation of reacting to the prevalence, and Brother Wright is right, the prevalence of white supremacy in all these areas and all these disciplines for centuries and for decades. And I think that we need, because of the demographic changes in America, we need to start pushing back very, very hard. And that's why we need the Black press so that we don't get confused, so we don't get alienated, so we don't get depressed. I mean, the suicide rate among African Americans is also going up. A lot of brothers and sisters are trying to check out because they can't deal with the stress, and that's so sad that we'll think about taking our own lives or putting our own lives at risk because we live in a society that's increasingly racist.
Yeah, I want you to respond to Dr. Chavis. If you could bring that comment from Bobby Henry back up. There's two things I want to respond to. First, Bobby Henry, and then I want to go to David Youngblood that I wanted to get your response on, Dr. Chavis.
Okay.
Bobby Henry says it's ironic that in the states where the governors are vying for who can be the best sycophant for Trump, lead the nation in the coronavirus cases.
I think Bobby Henry, the distinguished publisher of the West Side Gazette, is absolutely on target. They're putting the politics before human life, and you know, I don't want anyone to lose their life. I think it's a sad commentary that the governor of Florida is going to contribute to a lot of right-wing people also dying. We already know how he feels about people of color, but his own political base, he's putting at risk with a no-care attitude. And these are the kind of people that we need to vote out of office. I hope the next election there'll be a landslide vote against the governor of Florida, a landslide against Senator Rubio, a landslide against the governor of Texas, a landslide against the governor of Georgia. And we can pull it off. Don't let nobody get you the verdict. We saw what happened in January. Everybody's focused on January the 6th, but I'm focused on that runoff in Georgia. That's the news for me out of Georgia, that we showed that we have the power of the people if we're properly organized and properly mobilized.
Yeah, and Dr. Chavis, those are some strong words you used a few moments ago, premeditated murder. And you know what? I don't think many can disagree with that. We want our audience to let us know what they think of this morning's headlines. Send us an email at the NNPA. Let us know what you think of the headlines. Also, Dr. Chavis, David Youngblood. So I want you to respond to this as well. He says, am I wrong for saying let grown people make grown folks decisions even if they die? And he's obviously referring to people who are refusing to get vaccinated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, first of all, there's so much misinformation, and I think David is right. People are making decisions based on either their prejudice, either their hatred, or their misinformation. But at the end of the day, it's still going to get them in the wrong path where people are destroying themselves. There's a lot of self-destruction going on. And some of it is fed by misinformation. Again, I have to emphasize why we have the black press. We are not carbon copies of what's in the white press. No, our job is to plead our own cause, present the truth, and to keep our people awoke. You know, wokeness just didn't start. It started in 1827. For 194 years, we've been keeping black folks woke to what they need to be about, what we need to be focused on, and how we can achieve excellence in spite of all of the things that have been organized and institutionalized against our interests.
Yeah, and our founders, as you referred to back in New York, Freedom's Journal, they said we wish to plead our own cause. For too long, others have spoken for us. And that is really profound today. So we want to continue to think about that. For those who joined us this morning, hoping to see Cloe Luv, we certainly apologize we could not connect. But join us tomorrow because we have another fantastic edition planned for Let It Be Known. We will have Chicago native Carla David Luster, who is an entrepreneur who has a fashion line and who leads a think tank for small business owners to network and collaborate. Thank you for joining us. Let it be known, it is not how much we have, but how much we enjoy that makes us happy. We will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.